that is. All right, it is 6:01. And welcome to Real Unfiltered Talk. I'm James Bryan alongside two-time world champion, the man with the plan, the jig-throwing fool. Sometimes he does it in a pool.
That's right.
I'm a poet and didn't know it. Mr. Dion Hibden. Dion, good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Been kind of excited for tonight.
It should be good.
You know, when we decided to name this show,
Yeah.
it was real, like a fishing reel, but it was real R-E-A-L, like we're really going to be unfiltered and we're going to talk about all the things nobody wants to talk about. Kind of found out that talking about the fishing industry was pretty boring, even though it was really unfiltered, because nobody really cares.
Overall, yeah.
So started looking for guests that were really unfiltered. And most of them are they've got vaginitis. They don't show up.
Yeah.
But been working on Phillip for a while, and we've been talking about him for a few weeks, and finally, we've got an unfiltered guy on the show.
That's right.
So welcome, Phillip, to the show. How you doing tonight?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. How's your mouth?
Hurts like hell.
Yep. So let's get all of our medical things out of the way. I've had a sore back. I've been taking aspirin. I feel pretty good about it. You had your balls fixed.
Eyeballs.
Balls. That's, eyeball. Yeah.
Eyeballs, yes.
Okay, so you had your eyeball fixed. You had cataract surgery.
Yes.
On one.
That's right.
So now you're old foggy eye.
That's right.
So tonight we're going to call him Old Foggy Eyes in the house tonight.
I'm good as long as I don't, do this.
Yeah.
That's
with
bad.
the other eye.
Yeah, with the good eye.
Yep. So that kind of reminds me of a joke. You did this, and I said, do you know what the last thing that goes through a bug's mind when it hits the windshield?
What?
It's a butthole. There you go. There's my joke for the night.
Nice.
Terrible.
You like that?
Joke.
And then you got sore mouth.
Yep.
Because you decided to go to the dentist today, and then they yanked a tooth out with no. You one of those guys?
Yeah. I
No
don't
drugs?
Take, I don't
Just
take
yank
drugs, medicine, ibuprofen. I don't do none of that. Just yank it and go. That hurts.
How old are you now?
40.
Just turned 40.
Just turned 40.
Oh my God. Oh man, Phillip.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys just tuning in for the first time, and the millions that have watched us all over the world, millions, by the way.
Millions.
In the Tri-County area.
In the Tri-County area, south of Camdenton.
That's right.
Let me tell you guys a little story about Phillip Haynes. Phillip Haynes is an avid outdoorsman. He's another river rat, Dion. He grew up in the Ivy Bend area, right?
Yep, 58-mile marker.
58-mile marker. Loves the outdoors. He is a national champion in the world of crappie fishing, professional field. He's had countless top tens in the field. And a few years ago, he just up and quit. Just got out of the game.
Quit.
Didn't quit. Left the sport.
Left the sport.
How's that?
Retired.
He retired from the sport. So, got a lot to talk about, but I've known you for a long time. We actually used to travel together fishing. And we get more into the beer. We're going to talk about a couple of those stories because one of my favorites. I led everybody into it last week, but we got to back up and you both get some input. We got to follow the format of the show.
Okay.
And you've watched it
several times.
The rules are you cannot endorse anybody until we have that section where you can.
Okay.
So you can't talk about Stover Milling, and you can't talk about Gates, and you can't talk about your sponsors that you may or may not still have.
Okay.
Until we get to the shameless plug.
Got it.
Let's talk a little fishing first.
Or unless you want to.
Old Foggy Eye, did you go fishing?
No, I didn't. I did not. I've not fished since last week. I
Gotcha.
fished a lot last week, but not this week.
Gotcha.
And I told everybody they should go because everything's biting. And according to one of our tech guys, they are biting.
The tech guy.
Well, the tech guy didn't do anything. He didn't fish.
Right. Well, and when he does, he's not really that good.
But this
So
one,
I heard.
But this one said that they were actually biting. So.
Gotcha. This one?
Yeah.
He's not tech.
Well, you might as well be.
He's researcher.
Oh, researcher.
He tells us when we're wrong. Right, Steve?
Yeah.
Like, ain't right. So you haven't fished. I haven't fished. Have you fished?
Not since Monday before Memorial Day, so no.
We got nothing to talk about then.
I have
Show's
not fished.
over. So with that being said,
Lloyd fished.
we always plug under the shameless plug, and really, there's no shameless plug because Lloyd's our only sponsor.
Only paying sponsor.
So he's our only paying sponsor. Lloyd at Hiawatha Beach. He came in today and he said, "You never go to I found in somebody else's boat." He didn't say that. He didn't say that. He said, "Look at this, boys. Let me see if I can get this up in the camera again because I practiced." That, folks, is Lloyd Morgan of Hiawatha Beach, and he claimed that big old guy there is 21.5 inches long and was 7 pounds on the money. And that, folks, is a big-eyed, old, beautiful bass.
Caught it just a couple days ago.
And
On
Yeah, and then so this
Here,
is.
put that on the back of that
Here you go.
picture.
No, I got it. Look here. See, look. Oh, I see. You want it back. Here you go.
Yeah.
There
Let's do it
you
this
go.
way. All right. Let me see if I can do this, guys. There we go. That is a
Guido bug.
Guido bug with chartreuse pinchers tipped with orange.
That's right.
For those guys that believe that tipping stuff works.
It worked. It only had to work once. If you were guaranteed to catch a 7-pounder next time you go out, wouldn't you do yours?
Every time.
No.
Damn straight I would.
Good catch, Lloyd. And thank you again for being a sponsor. We cashed your check this week. Dion bought some boat parts.
And
It's
the
all
only
good.
and the only guy in the fishing show that actually went fishing this
He did.
week.
He got a 25. So the bow roller on the front of the boat, when you
Yep.
drive your boat up on, some of them have those big flares on the sides. I figured after 50 years of fishing, he could get one on the trailer straight, but he lost one of those side knobs. When you do that, they're kind of hard to put on,
They're real hard to put on with the
Especially
boat
if
on there.
especially if he's old foggy eye. Can't see to hit it. Got to hit the spot.
I was having trouble seeing last week,
Yeah, I know. You're always having trouble
so I
seeing.
hit it a little bit hard.
I always said, hey, check this out. And he goes like this.
Yeah.
Squints twice.
Squints twice. Yep. So how'd you get into fishing, Phillip?
Grew up on the lake. You know, my parents still live on the water. The 58-mile marker, and that's all I ever did. You know, it was 15 miles of gravel from my mom and dad's house to the nearest highway, so we didn't go nowhere for fun. So you fished. I bought my first boat at 10 from mowing grass, and every 2 years I buy a new one. So I ended up with a 21-foot Ranger
There you go. With a Yamaha.
with a Yamaha on it.
It's ugly.
It's ugly. The only thing it won't pass is a gas station.
There you go. And we've had those stories too. So, what got you started in professional crappie fishing? I mean, because you fish for everything.
Yeah.
And let's back up. When I say Phillip's an outdoorsman, he's noodled legally in some states. Maybe some states where it wasn't. Possibly.
I've been a
Don't-
lot.
Don't know.
It's a gray area.
It's a gray area. You hunt. You've done all of it.
Yeah, if it flies or swims, I try to catch it.
You took an ass stomping bass fishing.
I
But
did.
you did try it.
I did take an ass stomping and bass fishing last summer.
I got to join the club, Dion.
I think let's see, I hit a tree the first one.
Yep.
The boat quit running the second one, and then I got my ass kicked on the last two.
Yep. And then you just never showed back up again.
Well, I got another hobby that runs from January till June.
Right.
Then I'll start back up and I'll come back again and try it
Gotcha.
again.
Yep. Okay. But we can't talk about that either.
No.
So
can't
he
talk
has
about that either.
hobbies that are kind of on the down low. Yep.
Yeah.
So he's a parimutuel sportsman.
Yeah.
So, how's that?
Yeah, that's
a great
probably-
term.
That's a good term.
That was a good one.
And well, you guys after the show, we'll get into the details of all of that. So like me, we both know Travis Bullock. You know Travis. Travis told me when I got into professional crappie fishing, he said, "Hey, there's this tournament down at Grenada Lake, Mississippi. They've got these fish that are monsters." He said, "You want to go fish it? It's a crappie tournament." And I said, "They have tournaments for crappie?" I'm like, "Dude, that's how hard can it be?" You know. And I told the story a million times that they were 21, 23-pound strings. We caught like 8 pounds, and I thought we had it won. And that's when I was
Open.
that's when my eyes were opened about crappie fishing. What got you into that first?
Oh, well, you could go way back, and it had to do with Dion. So say I'm 40, so you're probably talking 30 years ago.
When you were 10?
Yeah, when I was 10. Stover used to have a career day, and Dion came to the career day.
Holy crap, that makes me old.
As a professional bass fisherman, I thought that's what I want to do.
Thanks, Phillip.
You know, so
Well, now let's talk this out. When you started professional fishing, you were
he
16.
just won the classic.
It's a good story. Let's listen.
He just won the classic.
All right.
So
That was
you know,
88.
No, that was 97.
97.
Yeah.
Jeez
so
Louise.
I was probably
I thought it was 73.
yeah. So I was 13.
Sorry.
And I decided
10.
that's what I wanted
Alright.
to do. Yeah, 'cause I remember it was the year I won the classic.
You wanted to be a
I wanted to be a
bass
professional bass fisherman.
world champion. Got it.
And I got home, and we don't eat bass, so I quit fishing for them. And that was about the end of my bass fishing career when I was little.
Because you didn't eat them. That was
Yeah,
it.
we didn't eat them, so I just quit fishing for
He
them.
said, Dad said, "Boy, you're gonna go out and catch you a catfish and some crappie
Yeah,
and put it on the
that's
table."
That's how it worked. So
Well, you know, just to be fair, that's how it worked in Dion's house too.
Absolutely.
So
you know, and I never went, and then you know the little local bars down there used to have tournaments. You know, everybody, you know, we used to call them potluck tournaments. So we'd put $10 in a coffee can or whatever, and you go fishing. And then when you used to be on 52 Highway, I came in. I see my first banner for a crappie master tournament. I said, I'm gonna get in it. I said, I can beat anybody. I live here.
Mhm.
I started then, did it for 20 years, and I decided I was done.
Gotcha. So I met Phillip on the road because I had heard rumors that this was like the craziest guy that you ever met, and he does some very unorthodox stuff. And
We heard about him in the bass field.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you kind of got yourself a
Yes.
reputation out
I
there.
get around.
Yeah.
I get around.
The first story I heard was when he and in crappie fishing you're allowed to use live bait, but guys are afraid when they get to a town that there's no bait to be had. So you go to the local hatchery and you buy 1,000 fish, you take them with you, charge them up the oxygen, you haul them up there. Guys have coolers, some do oxygen, whatever. But Phillip figured out he could just take his fish, put them in the hotel bathtub, trickle the water all day.
They stay alive.
It'll
all day
overflow
long.
over the top in the drain. That's all good. So you could go to the hotel room, and you want to share the story? What ended that? Or
They used to come out. I don't even know what it's called now. I think Gerald Swindle's got some. What's it called? G-Juice.
G-Juice.
T.H. Marine came out with it the very first time.
That's
I don't
the
even
Keep
remember what
Alive.
it was called. Yeah, it was called Keep Alive.
Keep Alive.
Very first. And I got some, and it was in the summertime. We were at Mark Twain. I was like, man, it got hot up there. And the air conditioner worked real well. And the first day I'd come back, some of them had died. So I took about a half a ball of that Keep Alive and put it in the bathtub.
In the white bathtub.
In the white bathtub.
So now you got a blue bathtub.
I mean, stained blue. And they were pissed.
They were pissed.
I mean, they were pissed.
For some reason.
Yeah, they were.
The minnows didn't get them.
No.
It was the blue
No,
bathtub.
it was
Yeah.
the blue bathtub. They didn't care about the minnows. The blue bathtub really set them off. And then the real bad part, of course,
Did you have
this
to pay
was,
for the hot to the bathtub?
so this was a long time ago when you could still get a room with paying cash.
Gotcha.
So then they wanted a credit card, and I was already gone. It was a big ordeal. I didn't stay back
So
there again.
you did a dine and dash
Kind of,
on the
yeah.
blue bathtub.
Yeah,
All right, that's the first one.
yeah. That was a learning experience then.
So went to Reelfoot, Tennessee, which that is the gar hole of the world. There, I guess there's good fishing there, but I've
There
never
was
ever
good
caught
fishing
one.
there.
And Travis told me, he said, "Hey, you got to go meet Phillip." And he says, "This dude, he's pretty cool." And I was like, "Why is he cool?" He's like, "Nah, you just got to meet him." So we roll into the motel, and he's staying in a pretty decent motel. And we go in there, and him and his fishing partner sitting on the floor. They got a 72-inch TV and video games, and they're drinking beer and they're playing video games. Night before tournament. I was like, "What? How the hell did you get this?" And Phillip said,
Well, I went to Walmart and bought it. You know, when we used to travel, me and my partner, he's the same age as us. You know, we didn't make a whole lot of money, so we would stay in the cheapest place you could stay. And I got to thinking about it one day, and it was, I'm trying to remember the comedian. I want to say it's Rodney Carrington. He did a Walmart joke one time, said, you know, Walmart take anything back. He said, these diapers already got shit in them. He said, they'll take them back. They don't care. And I thought about it one time, and, you know, there was no limits on how long you could fish, but once dark came, you quit fishing. In the spring, that's fairly early. We'd get bored. So we went to Walmart one night, and I bought the biggest TV they could get and a game console, and we'd buy Tiger Woods, and we'd take it back, and we'd play it for the week
golf.
we were there. And then when we come home, I just take it back to the local Walmart here and tell them it didn't fit where I wanted to put it, and they take it all back. And, you know,
It was like the
no
most-
money lost. I just rented it for a week and
"It
took
was
it
like
back.
the best video game rental ever."
Yeah, basically,
Right.
it cost me no money.
Until they caught you.
Well, they didn't really catch me, but somebody at Versailles Walmart decided I'd returned too many
much stuff.
TVs.
Yeah.
So I
From
quit.
other states.
I quit renting the TVs for a while.
I thought it was pretty awesome.
So then you told your wife, guess what, honey? We got a new TV.
No,
That's right.
no. I mean, she used to get so mad because I'd tell her, and she'd see me like I'd bring it home. When we first bought our first TV, I think it was 45 inches. I was buying 70s and taking them back. I was too cheap to keep it at the house.
The best part of the story was I was sitting there and I'm like, "Dude, why do you buy these TVs?" He's like, "Dude," he said, "TVs never work at a hotel."
And they
And
don't.
I'm like, "That's horse shit." And I went back to the hotel room that night and my TV did not work.
Yeah, they never work. You can't get them to come on, stay on,
That's right.
Yep.
piss on. I'll buy a new one.
All right, pull that away from your mouth just a little bit. Try it again.
Now,
Too far.
There.
Much better. I like that. That sounds better.
I don't like to be loud.
No, you're good. So, kind of liked him, you know?
Yeah.
This guy's kind of fun to be around. Well, my dad, he's fishing with our attorney. He starts fish crappie tournaments. And I'm fishing with Travis, who's a poopy pumper. He's a septic tank guy.
Yeah.
And so we invite Phillip and
Andrew.
Andrew come travel with us. We got two Andrews. We got And it was kind of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
You know,
Yeah,
it was fun.
fun.
But like Phillip said, he had to work a little longer than we did. He had a bigger
I got
job.
a real job.
He had a real job, and we had real jobs that we just left earlier. So my favorite story, and I prefaced this last week, was we went to Stockton Lake, crappie match tournament. And now the moral of the story is this story is a good story to tell you what kind of fisherman Phillip is. You want me to tell the story to lead it in? Or
It
do you
don't
want to just
matter.
go with it?
So
I'm gonna start it
before.
I'm going to start it, and I'm going to let you finish it.
Okay.
Because your version of the story is much
Yeah,
better
there's
than
going to
our
be two
version.
different versions.
I'll tell
Now,
you where you're wrong.
I might chime in a little bit on this, but so the four of us get to town, we get a hotel, we set up, and we go practice for, was it 2 days? 2 or 3 days?
2 days.
2 days. And Stockton has 2 arms that run down each arm of Stockton Lake, and there's kind of a reservoir end, like a big pool area. And we found them in the brush way down at the very end of the creek. Decent fish on one of the arms. I can't remember the name of the arm, but
I can't
there's
remember.
2
It's
creeks.
on the west arm.
you were on the east arm at the end. But west arm found some pretty decent fish, and Dad and Andrew found good fish. We just backed up 200 yards and found another school, and it was all good. So we're fishing a couple hundred yards from each other. So we get back that night, and this was the night before Phillip got to town. We said, what are we going to tell Phillip? Because Phillip's calling saying, hey, you guys finding fish. And we said, you know what? Let's just not tell him. And it's like, man, that's kind of low. And I said, no, it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, let's jack with him a little bit. So, and he gets to town that night. The night before the tournament, he says, all right, guys, you did the work. Where are the fish? And we said, they're up at the reservoir by the dam. I said, you can find you any pocket, big chunky walls, deep water. They're schooled up.
What a bunch of assholes.
You better believe it.
Oh, my
And I
God.
said, it's
Shit you not.
Oh, my
I said,
God.
it's awesome. Because Phillip would never share any information with us.
Nobody
Ever.
ever asked.
Never volunteered
He's the only
anything.
guy that never got to practice.
No, but so
They don't like getting
let's,
beat.
I'm defending myself here, and I'm going to back it up a little bit. You know, we've talked about where fish live. Okay? We try to teach people, and I say we being you. I just kind of coach you for the information. That bass live, you know, big bass live in certain areas. And they do it, as Dion says, they swim, they're green, they swim sideways, they do it everywhere across the country the same way. You got to figure out how to catch them, and that's where they're at. But that's where fish live. Phillip has an uncanny knack of finding where those fish live. Crappie, he's got that same, you know, it's a gift. You know, people can
Sure.
go out and you can just read the water and find fish, and it's good. But he would always whack us and never share. Where'd you catch him? Well, I caught him in the mouth. Well, I caught him in the lake. That's what you'd say. So don't say that we were being ornery to him.
Ah,
He
okay.
was kind of a dick to begin with. But that's why we kind of liked it.
Nobody
because
asked till it was
he was
over.
a dick like
Yeah.
us, so it was all good.
It's too late then.
Yeah. So he'd already said, you know, I caught him in the water. I caught him in the lip. You know, you guys need to figure your shit out yourself. And we're like, okay. Yeah, that's all good. So they're at the reservoir. Cha-cha.
Uh-huh. I see.
So in crappie fishing, if
I don't want
nobody's
to play
aware,
with you guys. Not
so
at all.
In crappie fishing, if you're not aware, or if you've never fished one before, they don't have takeoff. They didn't at the time. You could drive anywhere you wanted to and put in wherever you want, and as long as it was fishing time was 6 a.m., you could sit there and wait in your spot, and when it went 5:59, click, you dropped your line, you started fishing. That's where it was. So, and Phillip goes to the upper end,
I
the
launched,
lower end by the
I
dam.
launched at the hotel.
launched at the hotel, and there ain't nobody else there.
Not a soul.
Okay? Proceed.
Well, we're going back up. I go 2 weeks prior to the tournament. I'd never been to Stockton. I go, and they tell me, you probably need to check the Far East Arm. That's where it's at. I said, okay. So I launched.
Which you didn't tell us.
I launched, went down, and fished this whole arm. And this is where the only place I've ever been in my entire life. I bought minnows from the marina, and they counted them some bitches one by one by one for 10 dozen. I wasted half an hour there. So I got started and fished, and I mean I caught a lot of fish that were 3/4 of a pound, but I was told by a legal attorney that these pound-and-a-half fish lived in this lake. So I looked and looked and looked, and I could never find them. So I come back, told myself I didn't catch anything big, guys. I don't know what to tell you. And then I had to go back to work. So they all went ahead of time, 2 days before, and they fished. So I showed up Friday night for the tournament.
And we were catching about, in fairness, we were catching about 10 pounds on 7 fish, which on Stockton,
It's giant.
that's good. If there were some kicker fish, it was good. 7 to 8 pounds. If you catch a 1 pound fish on Stockton, that's a stud.
Yeah.
Okay. And we were about, and I think it was around 10 pounds.
Close.
Yeah, so we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. So we're not going to share this with the turd that won't share with us. All right? So he puts in that morning to find that no one else has put in the ramp. So he's thinking he's done something pretty smart.
Yeah, not a
You
soul. I pull up and I go to the first chunk rock bank there is. I'm like, all right. And side scan hadn't been out. I think it come out maybe the year before, or that year.
Definitely no live technology or anything else.
No.
Side
Side scan
imagery?
might have been the first year in
I don't
08.
think Spot Lock was even out yet, was it?
No. And I go down this bank and I find 2 big trees on this chunk rock bank. I was like, all right, that's where I'm going to start. And I wheel around. It's foggy. 7 o'clock hits, we start. And I'm sitting there, and I mean, not a soul. It is quiet. And I fished for about an hour. Not a boat, not a fish. Finally,
Right. Stop. Fast forward to the other end of the river. We are way down 10 miles from him in the creek. We both have our limits at 7:08. Okay? And we're snickering. All right?
yeah.
And I say to Travis, what happens when Phillip calls us? What are we going to say? Okay? So I said, well, if he calls or if he texts, we're going to say, we're not going to lie, we're going to say a few. Okay? We caught a few. Proceed.
So I ended up wasting from 7 to about 10, watching sailboats go by and not catching a fucking fish one. Not one. So I finally sent a message, said, hey, are you guys on fish? Are you catching fish? And they said, yeah. And I said, where are you? No response. I said, piss on this. So I
Because
loaded
we're
up.
trying to figure out what we're going to answer. It's like, I don't know where we are.
I said, piss on it. I go back to the trailer, put it on the trailer. Because the crab fishing, you can do that. You can put it on the trailer and move. So I moved all the way around the other end and launched and ran as far down this creek as I could get. It's now 12 o'clock, and you have to quit fishing at 3.
Uh-huh.
So I just
He's
started
got
fishing.
no fish.
Yeah, I have zero.
No
Not one
fish.
fish. And I take off and start down through this creek arm in the very back and just start smashing on them. And I thought, I'm gonna at least, show myself well anyways.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess I get to the boat ramp, and that's where every fucking truck from the tournament is at. It's launched at this one boat ramp. The only one. So I get launched, take off. Well, then when it comes take out time, I can't get out because I had to park all over the road, so I boated all the way back up there. But we get up there, and I mean, I basically fished for a third of the time everybody else did. We get to the weigh-in, and of course, they've already weighed. They done beat me there, weighed their fish. Everybody's happy. I'm one of the last people to weigh. And I'll never forget it. I walked up, and I was looking at it, and everybody's talking about it. Paul Alpers, he's going on and on about it. And, of course, Ed brought the plaque up. They had big fish,
Uh-huh.
and they weighed. Ed and Andrew and Travis and Jamie weighed the exact same weight.
We did. And I can't
To a
remember.
T.
I can't remember. Do you remember what the weight was?
To a T.
Yeah. Yeah, the big fish of the tournament was 168. So
Yeah.
it wasn't giant.
It wasn't very good. I want to say it was in the 7-something.
Yeah, like 760, something
Yeah,
like that.
somewhere
ballpark.
around that. When I get there, and we show, and all right, and I show up, and I put my fish in weigh, and I had just shy 8 pounds. I ended up taking third, beating them all.
Well,
and I'm
3
looking
hours
back,
of fishing.
and them assholes are just standing there looking at me like I was a fucking ghost.
Uh-huh.
I said, well, I don't know where you all were at or what you were telling me. I said, but I still beat your ass.
Down by the dam was
And-
hot.
And
Yeah.
then
That's right.
then we came clean and told him what happened. And you know what he said? I will never share anything with you ever again.
Never.
I wouldn't either. That's
I
And,
never-
scary.
and to this day, he has not. So
Never did.
That's
and so there's Dad's big fish for Stockton. That happened in that was 2010.
Yeah, I got one just like it. It says third.
Yeah.
Mine's in the garage.
We didn't get anything. So yeah. Even though I let him borrow a boat, fish a crappie tournament, ask him, and
that was after that tournament.
That was after that, and then you were like 5th or 6th
6th.
at Lake
Yep.
of the Ozarks, and I said, hey, you were in my boat, it's leaking fuel, you finished 6th, where'd you fish? And he said, kiss my ass. I'm not telling you
Nah,
where I went.
We didn't know it was leaking fuel till the next weekend. Yeah, so it was the next year. I'm fishing here at Lake of the Ozarks, the state championship, and I put in down here at Gravel, was fishing the lower end. I'm on my way back to the boat ramp. My boat just quits, shuts off. I can't get the trim to come up. I drag it up the boat ramp, bouncing the skeg off the ramp. I just drug it up and unhooked it, put my fish in a cooler, took off to Captain Ron's. And we ended up weighing. We had 9 something. We were in 6th place. And I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. My boat won't move. I went back there and messed with it a little bit, and I called Jamie and said, hey, I said, do you have that champion still? He said, yeah. I said, do you care if I borrow it?
Lorraine's boat.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yep.
He said, "You care if I borrow it?" He said, "No." I said, "But it's at Dad's on the lift. We'll have to go get it." So we spent all evening going down there, getting it. I'm like, "All right, perfect." Next day, I launched, grab, take off, run the same lap. Now the only difference, I about sank it. So I'd had a nitro, had power, or had hydraulic steering.
Uh-huh.
She didn't have that. And I was coming up
cable steer.
I was coming up the main lake right there by, of course, I don't know what it's now. It used to be called the Horny Toad. I think it's H's or some crap.
H-toad.
The Horny Toad. I was coming up through there.
Tech guy says H-toad. We're good.
Nah, it's Horny Toad. And there were some big boats out there. And I wasn't paying attention. I was talking to Andrew. And we hit one. And there went the steering wheel.
Oh,
It
shoot.
wheeled all the way around. And water come over the back of our heads. And I looked over. And Andrew's eyes were great big. And there was a guy in a pontoon. He said, "Holy shit, are you all right?" And I said, "Yep." And I hammered it. And away we went. Fished. And we ended up taking second in the state championship, which was great. Pumped. Well, Jamie was running a tournament called Super Slab Series. And kind of like the Big Bass Bash.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to fish that next weekend. I said, "Care if I borrow your boat?" He said, "Nope." So I just took it to the house. I never fished, never launched, nothing until Saturday morning. Well, I told him on that Saturday I used it. I said, "Man, I about burnt all the fuel in both tanks." He said, "There's no way." And I was like, "I'm telling you, I
I
did."
mean, it was a 150
Uh-huh.
Evinrude.
Yeah.
I said, there's no way you can burn that much gas. Well, it turned out the fuel line had damn near popped off of it.
Oh,
He was pumping.
Inside the cowling.
Oh,
Probably
no.
his cowling probably had 2 gallons inside the cowling and was running out of it. How he didn't explode,
That's a
I
good way
will,
for fire.
I will
Well, that's
I will never know how
I
he
fished
survived.
the whole next weekend that way. Like
he
I
kept filling
actually
it up and burning fuel off. And he's like,
I
"Man, there's
ran
something wrong."
to Wigwam, and I'd have to weigh fish, and I'd run to Lloyd's and get fuel, and I'd take back off. And I had to do that every 2 hours I weighed. I told Jamie, I said, "Something's not right. I'm telling you." I said, "I went through $150 worth of fuel."
Oh, my gosh.
That's it. He called me the next week. It was probably Wednesday or Thursday. "I don't know how the fuck you didn't blow up going down the lake." I said,
That's
"I don't
amazing,
either."
yeah.
I said, "I'll tell
It
you how
really
you
was.
don't." I said, "You go as fast as it'll go, and that gas goes out the back of it.
Runs out faster than
It
you go
runs
in.
out faster than it can go in."
Oh, my goodness.
See, told you,
You guys in the karma. Oh, crap.
unfiltered.
Yeah.
I don't
Now-
pay any attention to shit.
So,
Once I start fishing, I run it until it quits.
so-
Well, I'm kind of the same way.
so the American Crappie Trail is founded, and that's when I start my tour doing the MC work down there, and Phillip gets him a really good sponsor.
Yep.
I think you were Mid-State Seed, weren't you?
Mid-State
Did you
Seed.
fish
Yep.
with Travis?
Fished with Travis the first
2 years
3
of that,
years.
yep.
3 years.
Now back then, that was and you know the whole sponsor package. That was a $25,000 package
Yeah.
that they got. It was a good deal.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So-
really nice.
They fished well. Not great. And since Travis not here to defend himself, you fish great. But when you fish with Travis, put you midfield because you're hampered with Mr. Anal.
Yeah, he is really
He's way
anal.
too anal for
I will
fishing.
give you that. He's the only. I mean,
You got to put your stuff back exactly where it was when you get
Yeah.
done before you move.
I've
And you
seen
know
a lot
those
of
kinda
people
guys.
that are that
His
way.
dad's worse than he is.
And his dad's worse than he is.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah,
So, and he doesn't watch the show, so I don't care. So it's all good. Oh yeah.
yeah. Kurt,
Horrible, right? His
Yeah, I mean,
father-in-law's here.
everything is.
Don't tell him we're talking about him.
It's labeled. You know,
Yeah,
when you flip it open, it's labeled
Color
by
keyed,
yeah, by
labeled,
color,
yeah.
by brand. It's
Just like my boat.
yeah, just
Not so much.
just like you wish
Yeah,
somebody
not
would
so
do your
much.
boat.
It's what
Huh.
color Walmart bag is in your boat to have that.
Oh, he keeps his like Paul Alpers.
No,
Yeah.
no. There's difference between disorganized and a sparrow's nest.
Okay.
I buy a lot of Dollar General stuff too. So I got a lot of Dollar General bags.
I think what it is Dion's got a snack bag, and then he puts his tackle in the snack bag,
That's
then
right.
organized by the snack bag. That's how it works, right?
Well, I got into a snack bag one year at Paul's that had a sandwich. It was like 6 months old.
Nice.
That's gross.
Yeah,
you
it
can do
was-
that in my boat too. You just-
So-
it was nice.
So he went and fished, and there we call it fishing divorce. Things don't pan when you're fishing with buddies.
Fell
You got yeah.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't falling out, just
No, we just
different directions.
Everybody's too busy, and
Yep.
I want to do one side of it, and he wants to do another side of it. So just
So
didn't work.
the next story that I find it really fascinating, it probably still holds true today. Phillip is the painted man. You know what that means? He's tattooed up pretty good.
yeah.
yeah,
Yep, you got some skin art on you.
yeah, that is true.
And he came to me one day. He's like, "Man, I need to find a sponsor." And I said, "Well, what kind of sponsor you need?" He's like, "I'll do anything, man." And I said, "Well, what do you mean anything?" He said, "Dude, for $200, I'll put a sponsor on my skin."
Yeah,
And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." He was serious. So we dug around, looked around. Yeah, I think he fished a little bit, but finally, my boss hired him. Or actually, I don't know if hired is the right word. Paired him up with a rich guy, gun for hire. I mean, it would be like saying, Dion, There's this guy who's fishing the Pro Tour, and he's pretty good, but they need someone to really put him to the top.
Push him.
Yeah. So you want to go fish with him, and we'll package you in the sponsor deal. We'll cover your food, your expenses. All you gotta do is just show up and get in his boat and go fishing. So Phillip took a deal with a Strike King package deal.
Yep.
And he went out and fished with another guy he'd never fished with before. And these guys fished the ACT Trail, the American Crappie Trail, finished. Their first tournament was like 10th.
No, we finished 5th.
Was it 5th?
5th at Kentucky Lake.
And then 2/3, 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy never fished anything better than 20th after his partner left.
There
And
you
this
go.
is and the term I think it would call that. And he's a nice guy,
Real nice guy.
Nice
He is
guy.
super nice dude.
but trust fund guy.
There you
You
go.
know,
he's
That's
got
all
money.
right.
Had really good money, had good backing, but just needed
Needed help.
somebody who knew where those fish lived.
A
And they
little bit
did
of knowledge.
awesome. I mean, they really did awesome. They were right on the edge like twice of winning one. And then the season ended, and Tim says, we're going to do something different.
Yeah.
And then he was on foot again, out of a ride.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know,
You said the food was good.
oh man, he could flat cook, and that was probably one of the big bonuses. You know, the only thing he didn't like was breakfast, and if I go anywhere, I go to Waffle House every damn day. I'm not playing around. I'm gonna go there regardless, and he
if
didn't like that.
Any place we were, and we'll talk about that real quick, across the country, anywhere we were, the first thing he would call me, he says, I'm coming down. Is there a Waffle House?
Where's the closest Waffle House? I have
Nothing
to
wrong
eat.
with that.
I eat 4
You
or
like
5
Waffle
times
House?
a day.
Absolutely.
I don't mind it. It's kind of an interesting little layout, you know.
My
but
wife's not as impressed as I am, but I like
his
it.
I
fishing
love
partner
it.
would be asleep. He's at Waffle House.
Yeah.
That's his mojo to go to tournament time.
Yeah, I mean, when me and Travis fish together, I love him to death. He's got to get up. If we need to leave at 5, he's got to get up at 4 to get prettied up to get ready to leave. So he would get up at
Prettied
4.
up.
I would get up at 4:30. I get dressed and walk to the Waffle House, eat, and come back and be ready to go by the time he was ready to go. And I was just that way with everybody. I have to eat. I don't.
Well, we generally got to talk about pooping at every one of these shows. If you eat Waffle House, at what point does it bite back?
It doesn't.
You
That's-
go all day.
No.
Everybody says I've
Grease, bacon, and eggs, man. That's always a.
we've talked about this at work where I work. If I eat healthy, I can go 7 to 10 days without shitting. Period.
Dude, there's a problem with you.
Well, and I've been
You better
checked
get
out for that.
checked.
I have. Because, we were talking about it when I was trying to have kids, and I went and got checked out for that, and
There's been tests.
they basically
Yes.
told me that I burn more calories sleeping than most fucking people do working. So as long as I eat healthy, I mean, I could absorb almost everything. Now, if I have too many of these, then you can guarantee the next day I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. But besides that,
Waffle
I can
House
go
is-
without.
Waffle House is eating healthy too.
Yeah.
It's the grease.
Yeah, but
That's good for you.
But you watch them cook it.
You
It's
spit-
right
you
It's
there.
like a
spit-
southern hibachi.
Now listen,
That's all it is. A southern
gonna-
hibachi.
We're going to let's get the big guy eating here, okay? Because you guys did breakfast a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
You did not make it through the day without having to cut one.
Not all the time.
I mean, I couldn't
On
eat breakfast.
occasion, I can honestly say that actually in tournament time, the 8 hours of tournament days. Now this is 35 years of doing it too. I've only had to go twice
Right?
in an actual tournament. Both times very urgent.
Yeah.
But
oh, that definitely.
Twice. That's pretty good odds for as many tournaments
That's
I
really good
fished. I
odds.
mean, that's pretty good.
That's not bad.
That's
Yeah.
real good.
One time in front of a whole group of people.
Now I'm going to tell you right now, practice days, different situation.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I think part of it is the mental aspect too.
Sure.
I think your mind can like push that aside.
I have to go. I have to push through it.
Yeah.
Can't
That's like
stop.
it's
You're
just-
wasting time.
And then it goes away eventually. That pain just kind of goes away, and
That's
you're
right,
focused. I'm a big peer because I drink a lot of coffee, so I got to pee like every 5 minutes. But that's
Andrew was that way. Him
Yeah.
and sweet tea. He drinks sweet tea. He'd go 15 times a day, all
yeah.
day.
And
Every
that's
day.
I don't know, really. That's as long as you're not in the middle of like a country club golf course, which that happened in Gunnersville. The
Well-
last time I was down at Gunnersville, there was a group of guys who got in trouble because they out
There
there
was another guy that got in trouble. That was a
peeing
big,
off the edge and didn't realize there was a bunch of women golfers group that day.
big name crappie fisherman got in trouble doing that at Grenada.
Which one? Wally?
Wally Marshall got in trouble for that.
Yeah, Wally Marshall peed in front of a gal. They were 50 yards
Pissed.
apart.
He probably
Yep.
did it intentionally though.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Ain't nothing I like more, boys, than watching you using my poles. Yeah, that guy.
Idiot.
So you a Wally fan?
When I first started, I really was, and then I fished a tournament in Truman one time. Lake was way up. I was in the back of Wolf Creek. There's 3 big willow trees back there, and I'd found fish in there, and I was like, all right. And I wheel up in there, and I'm fishing them, and here he comes, 100 mile an hour. I didn't know who it was at first, watching him come in, and he shut down, I don't know, 15 feet from me, and just swamped me. And I looked at him, I thought, what in the hell? And I didn't say anything, and he just sat there for a minute. He goes, hey, I'm going to fish them trees. I said, well, after I'm done. He said, well, I'm going to fish him. I told Andrew, I said, he ain't going to fish him. I said, I'm not fucking leaving. And he got all mad about it and talked off and drove off. And I told Andrew, I said, I'll sit here all day. I won't catch another fish. I said, he won't fish these trees. About an hour and a half, he came back. I was still there. He got mad and told me, I found these fish. I said, well, so did I. He took off. He complained to Paul. That's how long ago. He complained to Paul about it. I told Paul, I said, he comes here tomorrow and swamps me. I said, I'll beat his ass at 10-foot pole. That's the end of it.
With that being said, you know what he's talking about with guys that come up on you when you're fishing.
Sure.
You've had that same issue.
I'm sure everybody does.
Yep. I mean, did he do what was right, wrong, indifferent?
We got into this when Brian New washed out a fish off the bed the first day of the tournament. Remember? Mm-hmm. That was all on the internet. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, that's so terrible. I've done that a million times. If I ain't gonna weigh it in, neither are you. What are you thinking? My dad did that how many times?
Trolling Motor Swamp?
Yes. Yep. If I'm not weighing it in, neither's anybody else.
Yep.
Well, and I'm gonna intentionally make that happen, and they all gave him a hard time because of the internet. That's the thing. The internet. See, back in the day, we took care of that stuff ourselves.
Yeah,
in the parking lot.
And Phillip took care of it.
Oh man.
Phillip took care of it by just refusing to leave.
Yeah. That was it.
And guess what? Wally tried to go above him.
Yeah.
And get with the law. I'll just get him disqualified. And the tournament director's like, no, it's not illegal. And that's the thing, and that's what all these tournament directors ought to do.
Yeah, and that's I wasn't mad about that he told on me or anything like that. That didn't bother me, and I just
No, to me that would have been funny.
Yeah, if you're to come in and throw a hissy fit, I won't. I'll fucking sit here all day long. I'll put the towels down, and just camp here. I'm in the shade of the willow trees.
I'll go back the next day just out of spite.
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
I think you guys already know there's going to be a second section to this, right? We're going to have we got to have 2 shows. So just relax, everybody. We'll have Phillip back on. This is good stuff. Yeah. I mean, we're halfway through, but yeah, he'll be back, right?
Oh, it don't bother me.
Yeah, we got way too much more to talk about.
Well, I mean, you could talk about the time we were at Grenada when Wally threw his fish in that tank, and the old boy running the tank was going to stomp the shit out of him.
Oh, that's... I mean, I would say I have a whole show on Wally.
Yeah, I mean,
we were all there.
Chased him and waited.
It was a national championship. There were 260-some boats
there's
there.
A bunch of us.
It was like a record at Grenada, and that's like... have you ever been to Grenada?
Yeah.
So they were lined up all the way almost up to the freaking turnoff.
Yeah, where you turn in, it could become a parking lot.
So Wally had caught a pretty decent string, crankbait pulling, and when he put his fish in, and back then, everybody kept their. Thank you, sir.
Now once again, as you say that, you need to know deep down, Wally's partner found
Jeff.
Right. What was his name? Jeff. Jeff. Yeah.
He was
Jeff
a hell of a
Hyman.
fisherman.
But they had, and the term was pulling crankbaits. Pulling behind, they caught fish on crankbaits, and they caught them pretty deep. Well, he had gill hooked 2 of those fish that may or may not have been alive when he decided to put them in this box to go weigh them in. So he cut the crankbait off in their throats, okay? And typically what happens is when you go to a crappie tournament, and I'm saying this respectfully, crappie are not endangered species.
No.
They're not endangered. So when they come up to weigh in and they're alive, you take your pliers, and you rip the crankbait out, and you throw it off the side. That fish is going to die, but it was alive when he brought it. Okay. This particular year, there's 250 boats. It was warm.
Yeah, it was hot that time.
And you're waiting in line for 30 minutes. So you're responsible to keep your fish alive until you get to the check. Well, he didn't. So by the time he got to the line, 4 of his 7 fish that had crankbaits in their throats were white-gilled and dead. So they said, hey, we're kicking these fish. And he's like, but they were alive when I got in the line. They said, well, you should have stayed your boat, you know. And so
Yep.
he got really pissed, which we've seen this. And
Yeah.
I'm not picking on Wally. I've seen this with a
No.
lot of anglers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you've seen it in the bass world. You know, a guy waits in line, his fish
Yeah.
dies, and he gets mad and
Well,
he
I
flings
mean,
them.
in crappie fishing, they used to be real good about, if you thought you were stressed, you'd run up there and holler at somebody. They'd have somebody come check them for you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that big
So-
a deal.
To paint the picture, it's like a city park pavilion. Okay, there's a big pavilion with a roof, and you get under it, and it's all good. And then behind this pavilion, they had the weigh-in trailer set up in front of it. People are sitting around, they're watching the weigh-in. But behind it was probably a 30-foot large stock tank,
Big.
about 4 foot
Oxygen
tall,
running to it.
full of water, had oxygen. And there was a big old farm boy with bibbed overalls, one of them unhooked. He's got chaw in his mouth.
Big dude.
His hat's backwards. You know the guy. And he's got an oar. And he's kind of stirring those crappie to make sure they're good. And if one's good, he'd take it and he'd put it in this pipe and shoot it down the lake. Return them back. But if they were weak, he'd just kind of sit there and work with them and stuff. So, rewind it back. Wally's pissed. And these fish got crankbaits in their throats. They're dead. They're going to DQ him. He doesn't have weight for the day. You know. So he takes these fish, he takes his bucket, and he flings it to where those fish kind of skip across the stock tank and splash old farm boy. They like crest up and splash him. And the guy throws his paddle down. He's like, I've effing had it and I'm done and I'm kicking your ass. And Wally says, I'd like to see you try.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
And the boy just steps out, starts walking him, and chases him on foot across the parking lot. And Wally and it's really funny because if you guys don't know Wally Marshall, he's about this tall and he's round and he looks like a little gremlin. So you can see as he's waddling, he's running, waddling. And the guy's chasing him. He's going to stomp his ass. And he dives into his truck and locks his doors. And the guy stands out there and waits for him until every vehicle is gone.
Every one of them.
Every
We're the
one
only
of them.
ones left
His
in the
All
boat's
parking
still
lot.
in the
256
water.
boats. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he will not let his partner Jeff in the truck. He won't let anything in the truck. And he's waiting to whip his ass. I really am not sure what happened there. I think Paul finally intervened and
Yeah,
let him
he
get
finally
out.
made the old big guy leave. But it
Might
was
have made him leave.
but quite the ordeal.
We all witnessed it. It was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it was
pretty
quite
cool.
the ordeal.
And then fast forward, remember Grenada when he ran through all the guys in the middle of the night?
Yep.
We're all staging to take off because they had a takeoff, and he puts it at the back of the boat and he races through all of them like full bore in dark with his lights off.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's not
Yeah.
real.
Whew, that was good times. But we don't want to talk bad about Wally.
No, and I mean he was just having
Wally's
something
Wally.
that happened to him several times. You just happened to be there. That's
Yeah,
the
we
same
all,
thing.
We all witnessed it.
I was at Truman once, and they never ever had said anything. Of course, crappie fishermen, we're kind of, I don't know, I want to say, we're not as committed as bass fishermen. That's what hurts the industry. And, used to be, they didn't care. If you weighed 7 fish, if you had 30 of them fucking things in your boat, nobody cared.
Yeah.
They finally come through one day and said, you can only have 8, period, end of story. And I was fishing with another guy. I said, all right, Truman was the first tournament. We went through, and I counted them and counted them and counted them. Said, we got 8. Now we got the line. There was 9. I got disqualified. It happens. But I couldn't. I said, them some bitches are breeding in there. That one wasn't in there when I left.
It's called the phantom crappie syndrome. You got a white tank, and those white crappie, they're real thin, and they'll hug up on the edge, and you miss them. And what happens is you're only allowed 8 in your boat to weigh in.
Yep.
But you still throw 30 of them in when you're fishing.
Yeah.
And then when you get a break, you weigh them out and you cull out and you get everything cleared up, and you miss one. Especially like if you're in a boat with a little triangle like the cats, who have the little hole,
bass cats
and
with a
great
little
big
hole
holes.
at the top.
Those guys always get DQ'd.
Well, that and then some of them
Dad and Andrew got DQ'd once
Yeah.
at here at the lake. We never got it. We can count because we all
Right,
we
so
only
they could
catch
count because
7.
they were only 7.
Yeah,
They
we
were that
only catch
big.
7, so we didn't have the issue.
They put them
like
all
you
on
guys
one
did.
side. It
Uh-huh.
didn't matter. That's the only time that was when I took my divider out of my 520. Without giving plenty of room. I put that son of a bitch back in there and never took it out again. Never once. It's always been there since. It's a lot of fun.
That's the whole reason I never fished them crappie terms. It's too much work.
It's a lot of work. Well,
You
not
gotta- you
anymore.
gotta
I mean,
weigh
now
all them.
you just stand there and stare at a fucking video game. And
Yeah.
That's it.
But still, to weigh them.
So are you saying you're not a live scope fan?
I don't know how to say this. I am a live scope fan as far as the redneck in me says I can go catch a
Let's-
bunch of fish,
Let me back up.
but I hate it for
Let-
tournament fishing.
Let's back up. You are very astute at live scoping. Very good.
I don't know if I'd say very good. I'm pretty good. You know, there's some really good guys out there. I'm pretty good.
Who do you think the best live scoper out there is right now
Oh,
in the crappie world?
I mean, there's some guys live scoper just fishing.
Excluding
in
Josh
general.
Jones. You a Josh Jones fan?
No, well, I'm not. I mean, he don't bother me any. I never had a problem with the guy. You know, the first time he showed up, he said, "I'm gonna beat all y'all using this live scope." Everybody doubted him. I said, "I don't know." I said, "He just drove 8 hours with that hair to fish a tournament."
With
I
that
said,
hair.
"He's gonna probably catch him," and he did. Beat our ass. Now, but the nice part about Josh Jones, I've always liked him, is he flat said, you know, if I didn't have it, I couldn't compete.
Yeah.
You know, he was always honest about it. You know, and he went to waxing people for years with it. I didn't buy one when it first come out for the first 2 years. I think, oh, they're going to ban it. This is ridiculous. They didn't. I bought mine, so I was a little behind. But there's some guys out there that are just phenomenal. They can look at fish out there at 100 feet and go, that one's a good one. I pitch to it and it's a drum.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not as astute as some of them guides are. Some of them guys that are super good at it. And
Yeah.
I understand the theory behind it, and I like it. But it really kills tournament fishing knowing that you spent 20 years or 15 years going these lakes and learning them and studying them when, you know, Billy shows up on
That's right.
Friday and he puts his little video game on and beats your ass.
Yep.
You know, and I don't like it. So that's why I quit going. You know, it takes some of the fun out of it. Because it's, you know, I can usually compete with some of them guys. There's a lot of guys way better than me. There's guys here at the lake that are way better at it than I am.
But you and I can agree on this, and Dion really can't get in on this because the bass fishing hasn't experienced it yet.
I'm
But-
happy with what they've done in bass fishing, banning it.
It killed professional
Oh, it's
crappie
killing
fishing.
it. Yeah, I mean,
Completely,
it
right?
went from, you know, and
I mean, or am I wrong?
no, it's killed it because when I started, the first time I ever fished Lake of the Ozarks, I had 137 boats in it. I took ninth, and it slowly dwindled with the economy and everything, you know. And I get it, but by the time Live Scope had come out, you know, we were averaging probably 70 to 80 boats at just about every AC tournament we were having. Most of the crappie masters were still drawing 70 boats. It went to 20, 30, you know, 10, 12, you know, and it just, the guys that were really good at it stayed at it, and a lot of the guys that were, you know, really good fishermen that just didn't either, you know, couldn't compete with them as fast, because that's my deal. I'm good at it. I'm not as fast as those guys. They can put
You
the trolling
kinda-
motor on 10 and go.
You kind of hit on it earlier, you know, with just the mentality of crappie fishermen. You know, and when I say that, it's not that they're more redneck than any of the rest of us, because I grew up just like you did.
Yeah.
If it walks, flies, swims, I've chased it, killed it, shot it, or tried to. It's the fact that a lot more old timers really enjoyed crappie fishing because it was something that they felt like, okay, I'm probably better at this than
Yeah.
a lot of these young
And there
guys,
was
you
a
know.
lot of older guys when I first started.
And then you bring that in, and now the young guys are
Well,
dominating things, and it just, that's why everybody got out.
And we've talked about the term donators. You know, they're the guys that just go for the fun of the sport. you
Yeah.
know, and they go camp out and they cook and
They
have a
drink
great time
beer,
and they
everybody has a
drink beer,
big
go catch
time.
7 fish. They'll pre-fish and clean their big fish. They
Yeah.
probably would have won a tournament with it. And they clean it and eat it that night. And when Live Scope came out, they just like, we're not going to donate that money anymore because not that we're having fun, but now we know we definitely don't have a chance.
Yeah, now it's not that, you know, because usually a lot of them guys, and I did for a long time, you know, when I watch people going, you know, I'd get to the boat ramp and talk to them, and I know damn good and well, you can wager any amount of money you want, and he's not going to draw a check unless he gets struck by lightning.
The sad part about
Struck by lightning.
the sad part about of what's ruining our tournament organizations is even in the crappie, there's maybe 5% of those guys that have really tricked out.
Yeah,
I
sure,
mean,
yeah.
their boats are just
But you know,
2 live scopes on the front, you know, backup trolling motors. It's the same way. It was the same way in bass fishing up until the last year or two.
right?
There was about 10% of the guys that made all the damn rules.
Yeah.
They got all the rules put in place, and now we're hung with it.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
and it's like we just had a couple weeks back. We had the first ever big crappie bash.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed that I heard the numbers were like over 500.
I was dumbfounded when they told me it was, I think it was 612.
Yeah,
That's what I heard.
612 anglers, which is the largest crappie tournament in the history of crappie fishing. Really.
I'd say, yeah, real close.
Because it'd be
for
300
people
boats
competing.
even
Yeah,
with a buddy.
yeah,
I mean,
300 boats.
That's huge. But I can't understand why they didn't have 3,000 for a $50,000 payout. You know, and
That's,
I bet the bulk of them were from out of town.
there was a lot of them from out
Yep.
of town. A lot.
But
you know, and
but
that's
again, I still think it was the rules.
and you know
You
there
didn't
was,
fish it.
I didn't fish.
Why didn't you fish it?
I had some guys ask me on the lake the week before why I didn't fish them. I told them when it took skill to catch fish again, I'd go back to fishing it.
It took skill.
I had other stuff to do too, so I really couldn't get off to fish it. But you know, and there were some guys that got mad. You know, and I'm not big on the Facebook. You know, I don't use it much. I basically look at the laugh. And there's some guys that got mad on that about the rules, and some people were pissed about the way it was set up. Some people were mad about the way it wasn't, because you know, if you do the bass bash, you know, you can't be a guide, period, anywhere.
Right.
You know, you can't do any of that.
They
Well,
let guides in there.
they let a lot of guides.
You're
in.
talking about the whole Kyler and Thatcher
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, and I
Yep.
remember they were, you know, people were getting all mad about
Thatcher
it.
Waymar got really pissed off because he couldn't fish it and
No.
didn't want to not
Yeah,
stop guiding.
yeah,
on
he's a
Lake
guide on
Leopard.
this lake, you know,
Yep.
and the other guys they'll guide a
Kyler
tournament
didn't
or
fish
wherever.
either, did he?
No, Kyler didn't fish.
Yeah.
No, but there was
he
some
chose
other
to make
guys.
money on Truman.
Yeah, there were some
Yeah.
other guys that did, which it doesn't matter to me. You know, one way or the other. That's if it's in the rules, then it's in the rules.
Right.
You know, period. You know, if you don't like it, then either don't fish or follow the rules. You know,
Gotcha.
or yeah, I guess you could take a chance, see if you can pass a polygraph or not. But
All right,
I
so-
don't believe it.
Shift gears. Favorite lake. You've seen them all.
Oh, now?
Yeah.
Darbone.
Really?
My favorite lake is Darbone. If they would get rid of all the rednecks like me at Darbone, it would be better than Grenada. Because they have a 50 fish creel limit and no length limit. The first time I stayed there, I watched some ladies clean, you know, cook whole 7-inch crappie and eat the tails first.
Right.
And we're catching two and a quarters. I thought, why are you keeping them?
I got to spend some time on the water. I didn't like the body of water.
I did. I loved it. As far as if you were going to go somewhere for fun.
It's like a shallow Truman.
Yeah, if you're going to go somewhere for fun and catch big fish in numbers, that's probably the best one to go to.
I guess partly because I was on the political side of it. You know,
Yeah,
the
you weren't
economic-
fishing. You just got
No.
to watch people fish.
Yeah, and the community was a bunch of buttholes. You know, because you have down there you have parishes, and it takes when you're selling a tournament, you have to have your sponsor dollars come in, and you have to have 7 parishes all vote on how much money each one's going to give.
Yeah.
So like the sheriff's department was part of a parish, and this is part of a parish, and they were all like contributing money. And then some of them didn't like the outcome of the tournament; they wouldn't pay. And you have to go like try to extort them for more money, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah,
But I did get to go in the water and play. I think you like Doorbone because you liked red shells and tails.
I ate crawfish. I ate at the Huddle House every morning. And I ate crawfish every evening at Rhett's.
Yep.
Every time. For every
You haven't been
4 or
Darbone,
5
have
times
you?
I went.
Darbone, Louisiana. It was kind of one of those untapped resources for crappie fishing, and it got found, and then all the tournaments went there and exposed it. Also, it brought in tourism, grew the economy, and thing is, there's no lodging, there's no economy,
there's not many places
and
to
they
stay.
just didn't build on that. And then they fished it out, and then they started changing the limits and there was no length limit on crappie there at all.
Never.
So they
I don't
changed
think
that.
there still is.
I think
really
they
don't-
did.
Did they finally
I
get it?
think
I
think
wish
they
they
put
would.
a 9 or 10 on there.
'Cause
But
I think it would be.
But-
I think it would be better than Grenada if they
I s-
ever got it right.
I'm trying to think what the hell the name of that place was. Another Louisiana lake where all the state records came from. There was never a tournament 'cause it was too small. And it was,
No. It's to the south of that.
yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I can't remember.
those southern Louisiana and
And then they all have
Mississippi
brackish
lakes.
water in them and great big black crappie. Great big.
Best one I
Brackish.
ever fished was Seminole.
really.
Yep.
I never fished Seminole.
No.
Did you ever fish Florida?
I have. I've been to St. John's River. That's the only one in Florida I've been on.
You did St. John's Bass, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Never
I've-
did.
I've
I've
caught
never did a
crappie out of
Florida lake.
I caught crappie out of St. John's last time I was there.
Big old black crappie.
Yeah. Went with Peter T.
Yeah.
We went to Seminole when I was pretty young, 18, 19 years old, and they were spawning, and they have an area called Spring Creek, which is miles and miles of backwater. I wouldn't venture to guess how many acres there are, but me and Dad got out there and got to looking and found a lot of bass on the bed and stuff, and we finally got in a big old patch of hydrilla. And we could see these beds down there, but we couldn't make them bite. And I told Dad, I said, I don't know what they are, but I said, they're beautiful beds, and they're right down there about 7-8 foot deep in the edge of that hydrilla. and we couldn't make them bite. And finally, I caught one of them, and it was a 2.5 pound crappie. I thought, wow, that's something. If that's all big crappie,
Right.
I called my cousin Clint, which crappie fishes quite a bit. And at that point in time, him and his wife would make one fun trip a year, and to go fish a crappie tournament. Well, I get in that night, and we're down there pre-practicing, and I call him. I said, "Man, I found your pond." I said, "You want to come fish one?" And looked around, and lo and behold, in less than a week, there was going to be one of them crappie deals. He says, "We're on our way." Loads up his crap, comes down there, and it's a 2-day event. The first day, they catch 5 that weigh 17. The second day, they weigh 5 that weighs 18. And that it was a 5-fish limit on that particular lake just because of the frickin' size. And I didn't know they grew that big. Did they catch
Well, bass guys
Did they
don't
catch
care.
3-pounders?
Yeah.
No, they really didn't catch 3-pounders, but they caught a number of them 2.5s and stuff like that. And it'll surprise you around the country. You talk about California, going out there
Clear Lake.
where
Clear
those
Lake
big
is
crappie live.
incredible. Yeah, it was probably one of the most incredible trips I've ever had.
They
Really
just
have.
think they're junk.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're on back, crap fish.
Yeah, they're junk fish on some lakes, but yeah, Clear Lake is. I think I've told that story before, but yeah, good fish there.
They're big
And I
fish.
told everybody, I said, if we were to get a group of guys who want to make like the ultimate trip, that's California out there is
When I
unbelievable.
when I said what I said about the crappie fishermen, I didn't say it to offend the crappie fishermen
No.
because it's just one of those deals. This deal came onto their scene,
Mhm.
and it took out of it what they wanted to put into it,
Sure.
and
Well,
they just
let me give
well,
you
we're
an example.
we just won't do it.
It's like Ronnie Capps and Steve Coleman.
And it's hard to make a living at crappie fishing. I don't care if you're the best.
Yeah, you
Right.
can do it.
Yeah,
that's
it's
where I was getting
virtually
at.
hard.
Can't do
So you do it for enjoyment.
Right.
And when you take something that you do for fun and you take the fun out of it,
That kills it.
Yep.
yeah, I'm
That's
done.
what happened
I'm
to
not
it.
going
But
to
and,
do it.
You're
and like I
absolutely
said,
correct.
and I say this very respectfully, it's like Ronnie Capps and Steve Coleman.
Sure.
They made a living doing it.
Yes.
9-time national champions,
You-
and
you
they
couldn't
had great
outwork them
sponsor
boys.
background. And he was a former fisheries biologist or a agent, and
Yeah.
Steve spent a ton of time on the water, and he was
They should
prison
be
guard.
the best. That's
they,
for sure.
And they were.
yeah.
And when this technology came, they just chose to back off and retire and let the kids do it.
Yep.
And that's
Yeah, I mean,
and
that
he
was
never
one thing.
said, and he never said a bad word about it.
Nope.
Just like
I mean,
they tried.
But you take the best in the sport and you change sport a little bit, and then they're done. They're just
Yeah.
finished.
Yeah.
and
And
they
then you look-
probably could still compete.
Then
know,
you
they
look at our
just-
bass fishing.
They don't.
It's the same way.
hmm
There's so many of the guys that's just, I'm kind of
Well,
done.
Can you imagine when each other eye fixed? You might actually be able to use live scope.
I don't know.
Well, the
I'm
problem I
hoping.
think they have with it is it's the sponsor part of it. I used to love watching it every day. When I was a kid, I watched it on Saturdays, FOW and BASS every morning. And this year the Classic came around. I happened to be off work one day, and I kicked it on and went to watch it. It was the boringest shit I've ever seen in my life. Looking
hard to
back
watch.
at somebody's damn head for 15 minutes.
It's hard to watch.
I watched it until I just about kicked it off. They kicked on Greg Hackney, and he was pounding the bank,
That's right.
going up and down. I watched him for about 10 minutes, and then went back to another guy in the middle of the creek, and I kicked it off. I mean, it's just no fun to watch no more.
I'm so sick of hearing the spinning reels,
Yeah,
line drag. I mean,
It's just it's the
it's-
same thing with crappie fishing.
But
It's
you
just
know
not
what?
that fun to watch.
Since we're on that subject, I just have to share that there's another trail out there that did live scope, no live scope, and they didn't build any numbers either. I mean,
because they didn't do away with it. They just it's
Well,
half and half.
Like MPFL did away with it.
yeah, MPFL
It
did.
didn't. It didn't surge to the top.
I think it. I'm going to tell you quite honestly. I think enough of the guys were at that point in their career that they just thought, I'm just kind of.
So I think if they ride it out next year, it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
Oh, I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know that will.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't.
Yeah.
Because I think it's got the industry in such a tither right now that
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
they won't.
You got half the
Yeah.
people that are really good at it and want to do it, and half people that don't want to do it.
The money's not there like it used to be.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the biggest problem.
Period. And so,
And we all have had that conversation. I
you
mean,
got to have
that's-
money to do it.
Yep.
You got to have those sponsors that don't have anything to do with bass fishing to make it. You know,
non-endemic
That's
sponsor
it.
is
Yeah.
what it's
If
called.
you don't-
That's just-
Yep.
I mean,
if you can't get those people interested, you're not going to make it right now.
And right now they're not interested.
Nope. Not interested at all.
But it's funny because
For
like,
that very reason that
Yep.
Phillip just said, it's no fun to watch.
right.
I mean, there should be a tennis shoe sponsor.
yeah.
They should have Nike on the back of those, the swoosh and stuff like that. That's what they're going to have to get into, because all
Maybe
you
they-
see is their back.
Maybe they should start doing like electrical charges when you catch a fish. And so the more fish you catch, the more the pain comes.
They're a dog, one of them dog collars. You can
Yeah,
shock 'em when
whoever
you're
can
watching,
tough it
see if
out
they're
the
still
end would
alive.
like win.
I
That'd be
mean,
fun to watch.
that's my only downfall too. It's just not fun to watch no more.
Yeah.
You know, because then you can't sell. And that's why I told them whenever everybody came out in the crappie fishing industry, I said, guys, it's going to kill it. They said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you only need one rod, everybody's troll with 8, so you're not going to sell that many rods. You're using one bait instead of 16. You're only selling 1/16 of the amount of the baits. I said, now you can see it, so you're not losing it. I used to have to buy hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of jig heads a year. If I lose 3 now, I'm pissed. I can see it. I shouldn't lose it. And that's just how it works. It slowly kills the industry one by one.
But you know what got you into bass fishing was kind of live scope too, because you'd be like cruising down a bank and he's like, dude, he would call me. He's like, did you know there's a bass schlepping around in between the docks? Like that word?
I like it.
And I'm like, what? Schlepping is like
Yeah.
cruising around.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was going from dock school of fish and I was moving through it and like, it's a big ass bass out there not doing nothing. He said, pitch a jig out there. He's like, boom.
Yeah. Catch
He
them on
said-
crappie jig.
Yeah, catch my crappie jig. He's like, I need to get in this bass fishing thing. It's gonna be easy.
It's
It's not. I promise you.
it's funny. It's not funny. I wish I could. I'm not going to get on the Randy Blockett bandwagon, but it's not funny. I mean, because me for instance, I have a boy that's about as good as there is. I would put him against anybody walking the planet right now, and he has no desire to do it
Mhm.
because of that.
Right.
Because he thinks his grandfather would be ashamed of him.
Yeah.
And that's the furthest from the truth. It wouldn't make any difference what that kid did.
As
It
long as
wouldn't make
he's
no
competing.
difference.
Yeah.
But
as
he
long as he's on
truly,
the water.
as long as he's on the water. But it's just no fun to watch. It's ruining it. I think it's going to end up dragging our sport. They always say that it's got to go clean to the bottom before it
Right.
bounces back. I really think this is the one that's going to take us there. And I don't, until they change things, I don't think it's going to change.
And if you watch crappie fishing, that's where it went.
That's it.
It
Yeah.
went from 80 boats to 20.
Isn't it amazing how fast an hour can go?
And the
It's
fun
been
thing
hour,
about
oh, yeah.
crappie fishing,
Damn.
the fun thing about
You're gonna
crappie
have to come
fishing
back, right?
is what it eliminated for you guys in the crappie industry was the locals.
Mhm.
It took the locals clear out of it.
Well,
When they come to Lake of the Ozarks and there's 170 boats, there's 10 of them that are locals,
right.
good locals.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just, I ain't gonna
Not
do
playing
it
with those
against
guys.
And,
I ain't
and
playing
that,
with those
that
guys.
is true. I mean, there's a lot of locals that bought into live scope and bought the stuff, but a lot of them don't fish anymore like they used to.
No.
For sure. For sure.
Yep. But there was also the opportunity where crappie tournaments, you used to be able to go in, and I've saw it a million times. They had registration that was open the night before a tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So you could walk in, and the locals would walk in and say, who signed up?
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh,
there was-
Dion signed up, Phillip signed up? Yep, we're not going.
and
you
that
know,
was,
So they had to change that, too, so less and less locals fish because they were
and
trying
I was
to...
happy they did. A lot of people threw a fit, when Matt started ACT about, you had to be entered 2 weeks before. You couldn't. There was no late fees, none of that shit. You had to enter. Because you'd have people that would wait around until, oh, well, shit, it's going to storm Saturday. I'm not going to fish. And they
Right.
wouldn't get in it. And
He'd
that
locked
did
in
away
their
with it.
money.
Yeah,
Yep.
that did away with it. And I liked it. A lot of people didn't, but, I'd assume it'd be that way. I wanted it to go to, like, bass fishing. The
there's a-
problem is every crappie fisherman will do anything for a fucking nickel.
See,
Right.
there's a
You
part
know,
of me, though, that feels
Every
like
one of them will sell out.
Yeah.
ACT...
Free
Nothing.
T-shirt, 2 bags
That's
of
right.
jigs.
That's right.
Well,
There's a-
shit, give me
there's
your
a-
T-shirt.
There's
That's
a
right.
big part of me that feels like ACT was part of the demise of crappie fishing, though.
I don't believe so.
And I owned it for 2 years.
I
So
really believe if they had just forced them, I think live scope, it just demised it because like you said, you had your donating fishermen, your guys that would take a chance, that wasn't super good, but if they get lucky and lightning strikes, they can catch them. They would still compete once live
Phillip Haynes
scope.
story.
Yeah, once live scope came out, you're done. You know,
Right.
there's no more guessing. You know, it's not like
You can't get lucky and find them.
You can't go to Grenada and knowing that, you know, it's going to take 17, 18, and like, well, maybe it's just tough and it's only going to take 13 this time. No, somebody's going to catch 18
gonna
of
catch
that damn
18
screen.
to 21. Yeah.
The guys that fill bass tournaments and that fill those crappie tournaments are the guys that think, I could make 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can
It's
get
not
paid.
a guy. It's not a guy that thinks he can win.
Yeah.
It's a guy that think, oh, I think I could make a check in that deal.
Yep.
And
Those are the guys that fill the numbers, and you're just not going to get that
and
no more.
that was
Agreed.
the problem, you know. And I heard a story. This goes to talk about age again. Your dad said something. I don't know, been 15 years ago when I first started fishing. And he told me one day, he said, when you go fishing, he said, what do you do? I said, well, I'm going out, I'm going to get my 7 caught. And he said, you're dumber than shit. He said, you're not to go catch 7. You need the 7 biggest fish you can catch. He said, so when you start catching the biggest fish possible. So I back then, after that, I stopped, you know, going out just worried about catching 7. It was to catch the 7 biggest ones I could get caught.
It's just a different mentality, and crappie fishing, you had to change. Also,
Yeah.
you don't go and catch 30 anymore. Nobody does. The live scopers that are awesome at it, they don't go catch 30 a day anymore. They catch 10.
Yeah.
But they catch the 10 right ones
Biggest
that they look
ones.
at.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. And they don't even fish for those other ones.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, and it's smart. That's the way they should do it.
the first tournament I watched, I was making fun of Josh Jones as we were fishing. We were trolling. I looked over and said, that guy looks like a damn knight. He just got his rod, and for an hour and a
Yep.
half,
Not
he
even putting
just
it in the water.
never fished.
Yep.
It just, I mean, he's just in front of us. This guy's an idiot.
Mhm.
But every time he dropped it down, he brought a hammer up. It looked
Yep.
like
There
Thor.
was a guy, I've told Jamie the story many times. There was a guy that came here and came to Shannon Beckman's house. We were at a fish fry. I mean, Shannon was having a fish fry, had several of the guys from the crappie tournament there, and he said, you know, come down. The guys would like to meet you, whether they did or not, I don't care. He said, come on down, you know, and Lawson wanted to go meet some of the guys because Lawson had been around Shannon a bunch, you know, and so we went down there to this thing, and, you know, we walk in, everybody's drinking a beer, eating fish, and having a big old time, shooting the breeze, and I just asked, I said, all right, who's the toughest SOB here? Shannon says, right there. And I looked at this guy, and I'm like, really? I said, what makes him so good? He says, he knows how to do that live scoping. And I said, so he beats all the rest of you heavy hitting some bucks. He's like, yep, every time.
Every time.
I said, what do you mean every time? He says, yeah, he's won Angler of the Year the last 3 years.
I wonder who that was.
Matthew Rogers.
No, was it Matt Rogers?
And he says, and he has no fish sense in his body.
That was Matt.
He said he
Matt
shows
Rogers.
up, and he said he turns that machine on, and he goes and looks, and he does nothing else. He searches for the right
I think-
fish. He searches for the right ones. Well, you know, when he told me that, I'm like, really? And I went over and talked to the guy, and the guy is a super nice guy, and you know, I asked him, I said, you know, what makes you? He said, oh, I don't know nothing about it. He said, I sat around and listened to these guys talk, and he said, it's like they're talking a different language. He said, I have no idea what they're even talking about for the most part. And he said, and I listen, but he said, in the end, I know I still have to go do what I know to do, and that's go find them on my machine and drop a bait in front of them and catch them. And it's pretty crazy, you know. And that was quite a while back because
Right.
Shannon's been gone for 5 years or
5
so.
years, yeah.
You gonna come back and do another one?
It don't matter to me. I'm
I
having
think
a
you
big one
should,
this
right?
time. I
Yeah.
need some pizza. I'm hungry.
The oven's off. You're out of luck.
Yeah.
So
Not for me.
shameless plug time because we got to wrap this up. We're gonna be here all night if we don't. You got anything tonight?
Nope, just make sure.
Yeah, we'll save
Get
that.
Lloyd.
I'll talk about Lloyd. Well, you got anything?
No, I ain't had plugs in a long time.
Really?
Nah. It's
Don't
all
you guys
set.
have a moving business?
Yeah, my brother
there you
does have
go.
a moving business. Yeah, my brother does have Sunrise
He does some
Movers.
fighting stuff too, doesn't he?
He does. He has Odyssey Fitness. He's about like me. He does all kinds of stuff. His stuff's just legal to do. There's
Stuff
a
is
big difference.
legal.
There's a big difference.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I miss tournament fishing, but there's not as much fun as it used to be.
Guess we'll just have to start some up here.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to work on them because I don't want to do it anymore.
I don't know about working at them. I ain't got time. We have to have them in the summer when nobody wants to fish.
Big shout out and hey, nice fish. I'm sorry I made fun of you.
I think it was bigger than 7.
You think? Did you weigh it on a certified scale? All right, that's good enough. All right. So congrats on a big fish by Lloyd Morgan.
It's a big one.
Special thanks to Lloyd and June at Hiawatha Beach Resort. They're up there at the Little Buffalo Cove here in Stover, Missouri. You can look them up online. You can find them. Great place to go. Summer's here. Snagging season's over. It's time to get gas and get ice cream. And they're stocked and ready. Right? Right. And he's going to be, if you don't know Lloyd, you saw his picture now. You can find him working on a dock because that's what he does. That's his hobby.
Every day.
Every day he's down on the dock fixing something. Right? Right. So with that being said, hey, great crowd tonight. Thanks for coming. We sure appreciate everything. And next week, 6 o'clock on Wednesday, we've got another show.
Nice.
Maybe Phillip will come back. I don't know. We'll see.
Ooh, probably
you're
not
not.
next Wednesday.
I'm just kidding. I don't want you back
I got
anyway.
too
We got to have a
much
little
shit to do.
break because everyone's got to decompress from that. So we'll have somebody a little more
I didn't
mild
get way
on.
out there.
You didn't. It was all good.
Somebody mild.
Somebody mild.
Who's that gonna be?
I don't know. I don't know a mild person.
Him.
I'm mild. Yeah.
He's pretty mild.
Anyway, that's it. We didn't talk a lot of fishing with some great stories. But from all of us here at Real Unfiltered Talk, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Make sure you like and subscribe us on YouTube, and check us out. We'll be here next week. Thanks for watching. See you guys.
See
Night.
Oh, think about this, because I've given this live scope thing a lot of